Okay, three interesting presentations. Just do that question again. How many of you actually are filmmakers here? Okay, so quite a large number, and I think I'd probably know what you're going to be asking or thinking, which is, but maybe the starting point for that question should be, what makes you so different? I know lots of the old distributors. Some of them are brilliant. Some of them even know who their filmmakers are, which is extraordinary. And but there is that sense that there's a passionate commitment in quite a lot of distributors. What makes what you're doing qualitatively different than distribution that we've seen before? I mean, maybe we could start with you, Effie, on that.
Distribution generally, or distribution that used to happen on internet a couple of years back?
Well, I'm talking about the relationship. Presumably, all of you are talking about relationships with filmmakers. All of you are talking about being different to what's gone before. But how are you different?
So,
by the way, it's not to lean forward, just because it busts the thing.
The most significant observation that that we had when we started the company was that some wonderful films would never get distribution. I mean, simple as that. And there were structural reasons for it. I mean, one is that the traditional release of theatrical DVD, even TV, is very expensive. So a film could be premiering in Cannes, Venice, Toronto, Berlin, London, wherever, and all the distributors from all around the world would go to watch those films. And the distributor, let's say from Spain or Turkey or Argentina, would love the film, and yet if they didn't think that there's at least 2 million people in Madrid who's going to watch that film, they wouldn't be picking it up, right? Because of the fixed cost of distribution. What internet is very fast doing is that it's bringing that distribution cost to almost zero. And then you have an interesting opportunity now, because you can take that film, and if there's those 10,000 people in Madrid who would love to watch that film, if only they knew it existed, then you have a business, right? So this is what internet is, to me, at the most basic level, is making it possible.
Sheila.
Well,
No, you're not allowed to lean forward.
We don't have to lean forward.
None of that nonsense.
Well, I think for us, as far as the difference is that we have a non-exclusive library, so we're really a platform and a tool for filmmakers to have support in releasing their films, providing accounting, digital tools, marketing, press. The nice thing is that you, I mean, which is important to me as a filmmaker, is that you keep your rights, because the world is changing so fast, and you want to be able to have those rights so that you can change up your content and have multiple deliverables.
Okay, yours is probably different. I want to come back to that issue of rights, but KAROL, I'm just trying to get a sense first whether you feel that you are somehow inventing some new field of distribution here.
Well, I would say absolutely, without a doubt. Where we're different in a couple of ways. One of the big significant areas that we're different is we pay. We pay in advance. We also then, once those advances are recouped, we split a 50-50 split with the content creators. We're also different because we operate directly with filmmakers, the content creators, as well with digital rights merchants. And in terms of how we distribute and where we distribute, long-form video and short-form video curated by experts on your mobile phone and online and doing offline events is something that the traditional distributors obviously don't do. And of course, we do it for free, advertising supported, which is not exactly, that's been done before. But one of the things that we, in terms of as a distributor that we're different, I don't really care about the gatekeepers, the press, the industry press, that hammer away and that cause such a ruckus with the distribution of films. Because for those of you that go to film festivals, or filmmakers, if you have a film that receives a bad review from Variety or somebody else, that is a real problem. We actually would rather listen to the audience out there, and we'll take our bets on content that we as acquisition folks think are important pieces of works that should be seen on these two platforms that we operate in.
But you are gatekeepers of sorts, aren't you? I mean, I understand that the traditional, that very traditional industry bias, where a very small number of people make all the decisions, and even the critics at the end. You've probably got 5 or 6 influencers that decide
Well, in terms of like what I'm buying, I guess I'm that kind of a gatekeeper. But we actually have a self-upload option on Babelgum as well. But where we're gatekeepers, I would say we're more curators than gatekeepers. But obviously, we curate what's up on the. It's just not a free-for-all.
And that term's an interesting one. Effie, you would see yourself thinking in the same terms, curator, maybe.
No. Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, the big trend is that we are moving from broadcast networks to what we call audience networks. Mm-hmm. In the broadcast network world, there is a rights owner that sells the film or the content to a distributor that decides how that film is going to be exposed, released, and the distributor even decides what film that you're going to see and when you should see it and how, on which device. And, where we are going increasingly is in the audience world is that the content, rather than being pushed to you, is being pulled by you. So you expose the content, and if the content is good, then it gets discovered very fast if it's exposed well and if it's used with all the right tools. And all these companies here are doing their bit on that. So that's what the Auteurs is doing, and I think is very powerful. And yes, it's a curated site because at the same time we didn't want to get too carried away with the long tail approach, because there's so much stuff out there where in a world of abundance, scarcity becomes very valuable, right? So if you want to, and we decided to build a brand around good films, and yes, we act so, not as a gatekeeper, but it's we try to identify films that, if exposed, would actually do well in our audience, and because of the nature, we are not paying any minimum guarantees, for example. We can work with a lot of films, a lot of different filmmakers, and globally.
So, but what's different here? You still are the gatekeeper. You're deciding what is a good film. I mean, to even talk about a good film, always gets me a little bit concerned. But you've decided what fits a good term. And I guess the word auteur in itself has a certain clue to what you're looking for. But in that particular sense, what you're saying is, you can broaden the base of films that you are showing within that criteria. And at the moment,
that's a good way to put it.
A hell of a lot gets lost, I guess. Yeah. Sheila, yours is a slightly different because yours is perhaps a more collaborative process with filmmakers that you've known. Maybe you don't have the luxury necessarily of working, or maybe it's not a luxury, but you can work with a group of filmmakers that you get to know that you have very different relationships with.
We work with filmmakers that, they bubble up, the ones that are very proactive, very hands-on, are willing to take risks and experiment with their content. We are right in there with them, supporting them in every way that we can. The launch of our new site will allow users to create watch lists in the same way that iTunes creates playlists for their, you can, as a user, and to comment and review on a certain level. Maybe not a star rating, but a thumbs up or thumbs down. But well, that's basically. But
yours is slightly different because in both of your two cases, you're still, not through your choice, but you're still in a system of rights management. Someone is selling those rights, and actually you're also a little bit tied. Although obviously the Sally Potter films are rather different, out of choice. You're still tied to those windows, which seems to me. I think the experience we're going to be hearing a lot about here is where. Exposure and visibility at the start can actually support theatrical release later, but at the moment you're still operating in an environment of rights and windows.
Well, I'm actually trying to dispense with the windows because in my conversations with filmmakers, I'm trying to make it clear to them that we can actually work with them. We don't actually have to wait for something that's post the theatrical release, but if we can time it with the theatrical release, or even some things before the theatrical release. So in essence, what we're doing is almost marketing. We're marketing the feature film for the filmmakers in consort with them. So yeah, the window, we do deal with rights, obviously, because we're a commercial enterprise, so we actually have to be able to put the content up online.
How much of a problem is that world of rights and windows? If that wasn't there and you were getting more choice, do you feel you would be in a different kind of environment?
If what wasn't there?
If you didn't have to think about if you were choosing windows which worked best for a particular film, if we're looking in this cross-media world where it might be released this...
I mean, there is probably, say, 200 to 300 films a year that are released that validates the window as the profit-maximizing model. I mean, if you gave me Inglourious Bastards and said, would you like to release it theatrically first, I would say yes, right? But for most films, the day and date of exposing it in as many mediums and channels as possible is actually a good idea, which the industry is only now started to be comfortable with. And there are some wonderful, brilliant examples about how some accidents led to some wonderful box office revenues. The film that won about a year and a half ago, Berlin Film Festival, not this year, but last year, was a film called Tropa de Elite, Elite Squad. It's a Brazilian film. It's Weinstein and Costa, who's our investor, production. Tropa de Elite was pirated in the subtitling lab 2 weeks before its Brazil world release, theatrical. Everybody freaked out. The Weinsteins, Costa, everybody freaked. Oh my God! Like 1 million people has seen this online. This is going to completely tank. What ended up happening is that this film broke every record in Brazil. It did better than Cidade de Deus, City of God, in the box office, which was amazing. Right? So because what happened is, because this film was exposed and people started to watch it and people started to really talk about it in many different platforms, in online, in cafes, everywhere. And even the people who've seen the film online still went to experience the theatrical experience.
I can see that. We're going to have to wind up. So I'm going to ask you one quick question to round this thing up. But I mean, what you're talking about there is a world in which your experience shows that release windows like we have them now can actually hold back rather than force that. But you're still operating that environment, which means that the new distributors are still in the old world at the moment. Yeah. That's something that might change. I want to ask you really quickly, from the filmmakers here, very briefly from each of you. I mean, the key to me here is you've still got that issue of discovery. It's having a film on a site with lots of different things, and what is that? How do I get more discovered? Do you allow the filmmaker a lot of leeway in their own kind of marketing? How do they get discovered within your own site? And just a reminder again of what the deals are as far as what the filmmaker takes. Maybe we can start with you, Sheila.
Well, just quickly, we actually encourage our filmmakers to have assets to give away for free. We have a filmmaker detail page, a film detail page. We allow users to donate directly to the filmmakers. I think digital assets is probably one of the best things you can have. Multiple deliverables that you can start releasing before you even start shooting anything. And make it free. Get it out there. We've done Windows, just quickly touched on that. And I don't know that it really, day and date we did that. We did well for a moment and then it just kind of petered off, and I think that you have to continue to repackage and repurpose your content. So have multiple deliverables to continue to be taking advantage of things that are timely and related to your film.
But that's the filmmaker takes some responsibility in this, is what you're saying.
You've got to, and I say this, the Rolling Stones, one of the most famous bands in the world, has to go on tour to promote their latest CD. Not everyone's just going to go buy it just because it's available. You have to be present and proactive with your film. Okay, and
KAROL, your discovery, how do you...
Well, we work closely with the individual filmmakers or with the rights owners to work with them closely on promotion. We also, one of the things I didn't talk about, we provide a player that they can actually use on their own blogs, on their own sites, that's basically powered by Babelgum. And we provide all the regular social networking tools. You can share it on Facebook, all that stuff. The tools are there. It's really up to the content creator a little bit to sort of discover them on their own in a way, but we do make it available to them. And we just work closely with our partners, whether it's IndieFlix or anybody.
Okay, and Effa, you've obviously got some quite senior partners as well, who presumably want their own degree of marketing there as well. But how do you have a mechanism for discovery that you think works?
Well, the whole platform is built for viral exposure and distribution. Like you expose a film in the Auteurs, and we would if it's a film that we want to highlight, we will be highlighting very briefly, either in one of our cinemas, because we create these cinemas, or on our homepage. And as people start interacting with it, if the film is good, then it gets discovered. And once it gets discovered, it becomes viral very quickly. So it's the platform, really. And the filmmaker helps it too, because the filmmaker, if he gets on board and if he has all his friends go and interact with the film, and they're all connected to Facebook and Twitter and the Auteurs, then all there, again, it's very, very viral once you seed a good content into the platform.
Okay, well, thanks very much to the panel. If I can just kind of sum up very briefly, I think what we're talking about here from a filmmaker's perspective is make sure that you take responsibility for your own work, but there are mechanisms whereby you can get your film out to large numbers of people in a way that then was inconceivable before the advent of the internet, which was some time ago. So thanks very much to the panel.